substantive due process is my jam, because that is what tells us that a law cannot be so vague so as to not give you notice as to whether or not you are breaking it. We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about the variety of states and organizations who have just brought multiple lawsuits down upon Biden's ATF about the new final rule restricting private sales. We're going to talk to you today about what this rule is, who is suing and where, and finally, are these lawsuits going to be a win for the good guys or the bad guys? But before we get started, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting the like button.
And we get this lawsuit out of, we got to go back to June the 25th, 2022 with the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. We changed the definition of what constituted engaging in the business and dealing in firearms. So that changed who is supposed to have a federal firearms license before they engage in repeated sales and dispositions of firearms. Now, the big change that they had there was you used to have to engage in all of that for livelihood and profit, and now they just say predominantly motivated to make a profit. And the ATF kind of overplayed their hand here and said, hey, if you sell one gun intending to make a profit and you're willing to engage in other sales or dispositions, well, you need to get yourself a federal firearms license. So very annoying on that front. Well, they went forward. That was a change to the United States Code 18 USC 921. Now they are changing the Code of Federal Regulations to kind of mirror it. They've done some bait and switching here with what guns are not considered part of your personal collection. And I mean, there's a big mess there. We have a whole video to that. We'll link that down in the description below. But I think, as everybody anticipated, anytime the ATF does anything, they're immediately going to get pounded with lawsuits.
Yes, exactly. So that is what we have here. We have got the attorneys general of Texas, Kansas, Arkansas, Utah, Louisiana, Mississippi, a variety of other states in 3 separate lawsuits. Also, we have our good friends over at GOA, over at Virginia Citizens Defense League, the Gun Owners Foundation. All of these wonderful besties of the Second Amendment have gathered together, and it is at least the one filed by Texas, which is the petition I have reviewed in detail. It's juicy.
Yeah, well, also, first off, if you want a mug that says 2A Bestie, put the comment below. We'll make it happen.
I've seen our demographics of who watches this. There's only a very tiny fraction of people who would have
6% of
6% of women who watch it. But yes, I will make a 2A Bestie mug for you.
That's very funny. Yeah. So, I mean, incredible lawsuit spearheaded by Ken Paxton, Attorney General for the state of Texas. He had held a press conference. Let's check out a clip from that.
He has completely disrespected and disregarded the democratic process. He has violated the separation of powers intended by our founding fathers to preserve the consent of the people in matters of government. On April 19th, the ATF published its new rule subjecting hundreds of thousands of law-abiding gun owners to presumption of criminal guilt for engaging in the constitutionally protected private sale of firearms.
And so there's a couple of key points to the lawsuit, but I mean, I think we will all see, and Emily's a huge fan of, the Administrative Procedures Act.
Yes.
Well, and we see this, and this is happening over and over. Our Code of Federal Regulation is how our government agencies execute the law passed by Congress, signed by the president. So typically they mirror each other, and for the most part, and up until, the late 2018, until we had the bump stock ban from the Trump administration, until we had that, the Code of Federal Regulation and the United States Code mirrored each other, and then we've seen this kind of split where the ATF has begun trying to legislate. The courts right now have not really dove that deep into saying and striking these agencies down and saying, hey, look, you don't get to legislate. They're kind of trying to figure out ways to get around it, but it's getting so blatant and so out of control that I think we're going to see some movement on this.
Right, and I mean, I think that's the primary allegation of Paxton's suit is basically you're committing an APA violation by legislating.
Yep.
You're not rulemaking. You are actually changing the law, and you cannot do that unless you are Congress.
Yeah.
So we've got the sort of general APA violation here. And we've also got just a good old-fashioned Second Amendment challenge.
Yeah, we look at New York State Rifle and Pistol Association. That's a great case to look at. We look at the standard by which we judge Second Amendment infringements. So we look at the text of the Second Amendment as informed by history and tradition. So we look at the laws in place at 1791 when the Second Amendment was adopted. How did the country at the time of the founding treat the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms? Well, we're going to take our modern laws, apply those standards to them. Hey, is this something that would have been legislated or regulated? And if the answer is no, and there's not some kind of historical analog or analog to maybe some other right or fundamental civil right, then they're going to be so out of luck.
Exactly. So in addition to these, this is like where I get like a little nerdy for the law, because it's a good petition. It's a good petition. So we've got that. We've also got a substantive due process argument. And if you think I love the APA, hold on, MFers, because substantive
hold my hold my Chardonnay and watch this.
Hold my Chardonnay, because substantive due process is my jam, because that is what tells us that a law cannot be so vague so as to not give you notice as to whether or not you are breaking it.
And if you have looked at the comment section for the past 5 videos we have made on this change in rule for engaging in the business, it is clear people, this law is vague.
It's vague. It's very confusing. You cannot do that. It is a due process violation. So we've got our 2A violation, we've got our 5A violation, and this is, I think, it's clever. It might be too clever by half. They've alleged a Fourth Amendment violation. So buckle up for this one. Essentially saying that if you are forced to get an FFL, right? All of us who just want to buy a gun, well, sell a gun, I guess. I want to sell a gun. I'm going to have to get an FFL to do it. Well, once I do that, I am subjecting myself to search by the government. So the government then gets to come into my place of business, which is going to be my home, because I'm just a guy who wants to sell some guns, and gets to look at my inventory, which is going to be my personal collection, because I'm just a guy who wants to sell some guns. So in order to engage in our right to commerce, we have to get a license, which then tells the government they can come into our homes and search our property and search our guns. Clever.
I don't think it's too far.
You don't think it's too far?
No,
I think
we
it's,
just those
it's on the
cases
edge.
those cases have not been in vogue for a while, but the privacy and licensing cases, we used to have a lot of those.
But you know, as a heavily regulated business or highly regulated business, whatever they call it, like we have cases that say, yes, you lose your right to privacy when you choose to engage in these businesses. So I guess I just don't know. I just don't know where the courts will come down on that. But it's an interesting argument, and it's clever if it works. I just favor the other arguments before that one, I believe.
Yeah, but this is one of those cases that's great. We are going to be monitoring it closely, keeping y'all updated. So if you're not subscribed, like a huge chunk of our audience, I'm actually surprised at the number of people who frequently watch us or regularly watch us and aren't subscribed. Make sure to hit the subscribe button.
Lazy bones.
Yeah, but we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And let us know, do you agree with me that this Fourth Amendment argument might be a little too much? Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.